Happy Friday, everybody. This is not Shane. He's off being an important games judge type thing. So it's Invisible Walls 160. We have, every week Shane says that we have a super fantastic show. So this week I'm going to say we have a kind of crap show. I'm going to lower the expectations so everybody can be pleasantly surprised. So yeah, we've got an indifferent show for you this week. We've got a couple of games to look at. We've got some interesting news that we will be dissecting. We have two very, very special guests. They paid me to say that. So without further ado, Rohan Rivas is joining us.
Hello.
Rohan, of course, is the producer of Bonus Round. And then we have the voice of GameTrailers.com. It's the very sexy Brandon Jones.
Back on the walls, y'alls.
Back on the walls, y'alls.
Only Brandon Jones could get away with saying something like that.
The always effervescent and ebullient Justin Spear.
Hello.
And we've got Ryan Stevens here.
That's me.
And that's obviously me as well, Marcus Beer. So let's crack on.
September the 25th, 1268. A riot erupts. A massacre ensues.
First up, we're actually going to do a segment that's become very popular within these offices. I don't know if you guys like it or not, but it's the Game Trailers Invisible Walls news minus the beeps.
Beep.
Oh, we got a beep. First bit of news. I know a lot of people will be wondering why we're not talking about The Witcher this week, or Witcher 2. Unfortunately, the review code didn't arrive until Monday, and it's such a big game that we want to make sure we can give it really enough time to go through it properly, so we will be having an in-depth look at The Witcher next week. So don't blame us, blame the PR people. First up, there was a game announced, revealed last week that will probably be quite popular, especially with shooter fans. Unfortunately, Shane's not here to talk about it, so that's why we brought Rohan in. Modern Warfare 3, you are sort of like the de facto multiplayer champ of the office when it comes to Modern Warfare 3. You're always the go-to guy for the capture, and you know your stuff. So how aroused are you at all this stuff that's been leaked this week?
Well, extremely aroused in an indecent way. One thing I want to say is that it's really interesting that this stuff was leaked. I'd also like to point out that a lot of this stuff, I mean, who knows like how accurate all of this is? I mean,
according to the internet, it's all accurate.
It's all accurate.
Well,
Right.
I mean,
there's four different trailers that have come out from Activision.
Yeah, those are official, and they released the first one. They're like, we weren't planning on doing this today.
Yeah, Robert Bowling kind of like had to play his hand at that point. But one thing I would also like to say is like, how far along is all this? You know, at what point in the development process were all of these assets and all of this information? How dated is it? You know, there's still a lot of time between now and I think it's November 8th that leaked is the release date for it.
We've seen four or five teasers right now. One for New York, one for London.
So
Paris and
interesting
Berlin.
enough, all with the nations or cities that have the letter E in it. So you have like America with an E, England with an E, France with an E, and Germany with an E, which is a 3 in these teaser trailers. And they're kind of just like basic teasers. There's not a lot going on. Infinity Ward is kind of infamous for putting a lot of like hidden meaning and messages and visuals in their trailers. You know, previously a couple years ago with Modern Warfare 2, they hidden like some of the perks along with the visual, but this time it was just more straightforward, kind of these are the cities that we will be going to, these are the locations that Modern Warfare 3 will take us, and that's pretty much it.
Well, they're bringing the battle to everybody's doorstep. I mean, practically, and I think that to me it does make the game more appealing. I mean, I'm very much a fan of seeing real world locations and recognizable locations. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle, something going down in
And
New
it's a
York
direct
and London.
sequel to the last game, right?
Yeah, I mean
that's the rumor.
From what the leaked information
and the last
says.
game was tied into the first Modern Warfare, which I don't know why it surprised me, but I guess I just wasn't expecting it. I thought they were just going to completely restart.
Well, I mean,
but now it's like, so the Soviets are kind of the bad guys, so it's kind of like,
aren't they always?
Cold War II hot lunch.
Well, World
operation.
War III, I think that's what they're really going for. They really want to say, we want to be the first-person shooter that does World War III. You know, Modern Warfare 3, World War III, all of these cities, it's across the globe. And earlier to your point, Ryan, yeah, I think that they want to keep this connected as much as possible to the previous game and Modern Warfare. They want to create these they want to continue to develop these characters. I don't know if they're super interesting, but people like Soap and Captain
drop the
Price.
soap.
Yeah, don't drop the soap. But like Captain Price, they want to make spin-offs. I'm sure they want to do action figures of these characters. They want to market this brand as much as possible, and how you do that is that you have iteration upon iteration with familiar characters.
All right, so the $64 million question, of course, is that this is not the Infinity Ward that made Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2. This, a lot of those people have, West, San Paulo, those guys, they've buggered off. There are 2 other development studios allegedly or apparently involved, one who's handling multiplayer. I mean, this is... is this like, breaking up the Beatles and replacing them with members of New Kids on the Block?
Well, here is my thought process, is how much of this, the grand scope of this series, how much of this was already completed before, Zampella and company left, These people that have departed from Infinity Ward, I mean, this game could have been on paper years ago.
I'm sure they mapped the entire arc. So I mean, and that's the writing, which I'm sure came from a lot of the original Infinity Ward guys. But I mean, again, it's just the gameplay nuances. And while I've always been the biggest critic of Activision and some of the iterations of Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 1 and Modern Warfare 2 are both very good games. I mean, Modern Warfare 1 is one of my all-time favorite games. I'm just worried that this one is just not going to be up to scratch. It's basically building a house with really shoddy materials.
Yeah, but does it matter?
Dodgy contractors in.
Because the Treyarch games, they're not bad, but they continue to sell as well. I mean, they just have their A team and their B team. The question I think is Infinity Ward going to become the B team and Treyarch going to become the A team now?
I think it's so congested at this point and muddled with multiple developers, multiple studios. Who is the face behind this game? I mean, nobody really. I mean, it's more of a gigantic team effort. I don't know what to expect. Like, I'll be honest with you. I absolutely love Modern Warfare 2. I still play Modern Warfare 2 every once in a while, and I think, based off of the track record, based off of the talent, I'm sure something great has already been in the books for a while. It's been on paper for a while. You just have people executing it now with an engine that is very familiar. These people are... Is
it confirmed they're using the same engine? Because that engine is now, that's a couple of years old.
Yeah, but when you look at Black Ops, I would assume that they're still using the same engine, but a renovated version of it, and this will be the last... it has to be at this point. I mean, the engine still looks good, but...
Well, I think we'll see in approximately 3 weeks' time when we all go behind closed doors at Activision and take a look at E3. Next up, Sony, PSN. PSN's back online, everybody. Woohoo. All you PlayStation gamers, you can talk to each other and chill and have fun.
Check out my trophies.
Indeed. And, let's talk about the good news first. Let's talk about the Welcome Backpack, which is...
better than I expected.
Yeah, actually, that was the email you sent out to everybody. You said PSN gifts are better than I thought. And I agree. I think...
I really thought it was going to be Flower and Flow and Calling All Cars, whatever the fuck that game's called now. They changed the title too much. But, hey, I only ever played the Infamous demo. Guess I'm going to play Infamous now.
Well, that's the kicker. I mean, if you've been living under a rock and you haven't seen the full list, I mean, basically they're offering you 2 downloads of full retail titles for PlayStation. Dead Nation, Infamous, which is one of my all-time favorite games, and it's perfect for Infamous 2 coming out in a couple of weeks. Little Big Planet, which is another phenomenal game. Super Stardust HD, and then Wipeout HD and Fury. So I mean, that's actually a good list. I've got a couple of the games on those lists, but I'm definitely going to be downloading Super Stardust and Wipeout.
And a free weekend of movie rentals.
Well, a free weekend of movie rentals
for certain titles. So Shallow Hell all weekend. Yeah.
There's also a free month of PlayStation Plus, and then if you are already an existing subscriber, they give you another month on top of that practically to cover for your outage. So you've got 2 months.
They're sorry.
So I'm finally gonna buy Choniki for $3.
Oh god.
My life goal. You get discounts when you're a PSN Plus member.
Okay.
Oh.
I don't even think with a discount Choniki is
$2.99, man.
ethical. So
Well, the other thing that I found interesting that they're offering in select European territories, but I don't think they're offering here in the US, is they're offering free identity protection with every PSN account now in the UK, Germany, France, and I think Spain and Italy. But yeah, I don't think they're offering that over here. I think that's a savvy move, which is just as well because
Oh, this just in
from breaking news over the wire. The PSN password reset system was allegedly hacked this morning, which is Wednesday. It's gone offline. Numerous websites are reporting that there was basically an exploit that was built in there. One of the sites actually put the exploit up and showed how easy it was to hack the passwords. And basically, if you knew somebody's name and date of birth, you could totally get all their information. So Sony went and took all the Sony sites down that involve password resetting, and Sony is saying, oh no, it's not a hack, it was just an error in our system. So we'll see how that one plays out. By the time you listen to this on Friday, it'll either be a non-entity or will have blown up into something more. So from the PR perspective, I think Sony did a really good job with the Welcome Backpack. There's been several missteps from them over the last couple of weeks. I mean, Jack Tretton on Monday was interviewed by Reuters, and he basically got very tetchy and arsey when asked, why did it take a week for people to, to learn about the PSN outage? And he's like, well, you guys are lucky that it only took a week, because most people don't even tell you that there was that you were hacked, or you have to wait 6 months or whatever. He was a little bit arsey about it, and I'm sure it's been a rough week for him. I think Sony still have a lot of work to do with their online stuff, and feel free to chip in here, guys. Everybody's been very quiet.
Well, that's fine with me.
Okay.
We're doing very well.
Where's Kevin?
Nothing
Where's
to
Kevin
report.
Butler, man? Where's his? I want to see Sony's, humorous interpretation of.
I think you'll see it at. I bet you'll see it at their press conference.
I hope so. I like that guy.
I think he's going to come on board, come on the stage and commit harakiri. All right, stepping in now to dish the dirt on Dirt 3 is Daniel Bloodworth. So, come on, it's the third in the trilogy. It's obviously very successful. It's a driving game. Everybody knows I don't really like driving games, so...
I didn't know that.
Well, now you do. You get back in your corner until we're ready to talk to you, all right? Tell us about it, man.
Don't be a dick.
Why? Why should I change the habit of a lifetime? You're sidetracking the conversation. All right, so, Blood, talk to us.
No, the game is it's pretty incredible. I mean, it's fairly simple, but it's as Codemasters always says, they have that great balance between something that feels realistic but isn't so punishing, that you have to be super technical, but you do have to manage your throttle and everything, getting around the turns.
Now this is isn't this the game that in the UK was Colin McRae's Rally? Is that the one?
Yeah, it used to be a Colin McRae license, and might still have it in the UK. I remember.
No, I think they dropped it after the helicopter accident.
Yeah, because he passed a couple of years ago.
But yeah, it's it's interesting because it doesn't really like a lot of racing games. You'll retread a lot of the same ground and stuff, and this game it doesn't. It does the new game, it focuses a lot more on having weather cycles and stuff, like, well, not really cycles, but weather effects. So you have rain and snow courses. There's actually one course I was on where you're racing a bobsled down a mountain. So it's
you're racing a bobsled as opposed to a car down a mountain.
Yeah, there's a bobsleigh on its track, and then you're trying to get down the course faster than it.
That's what I really liked about the game, though, is it's a rally racing game, but they've seemed to somehow put in a ton of variety without getting too cheeky. How's that sound for you?
Yeah, there's a little things like there's this weird little thing where you're like smashing through these cardboard robots and not hitting the cities. It's like these robots invaded or whatever.
That's a multiplayer mode too, right?
Yeah, it is a multiplayer mode. There's some party modes. I was just looking through the multiplayer menus, and I saw there's also a hardcore mode that gives you everyone's forced into cockpits, and there's no HUD and no assists. So that's
Daniel
good.
Bloodworth mode, basically.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty nice for people that are into that, and I think that's the thing is like it actually does a good job of satisfying people on any level.
So basically, they've turned this into a video game version of Top Gear. And I'm talking about the British version here, not the crappy
I
American.
don't even
version.
want to see that, but
But I mean,
The
you see
American
what, the challenges. The bobsleigh racing. I think they actually did that as a Top Gear challenge once, and it sounds like that's all that's missing is Jeremy Clarkson.
Yeah, I mean, not so much. I mean, that's kind of a more unique one. They do have, rally is definitely more back into the focus this time. But there's also the rally cross and land rush where you actually are like racing in a pack, and there's a lot more bumping and grinding around laps as opposed to the point to points on your own. There's also a big focus now on Gymkhana, which is kind of a newer like stunt kind of sport.
It's a horrible word.
It is a horrible word, and it is something that you will hate it even if you love it.
Sounds like a daycare company. Like, let's take the kids over to Gymkhana.
No, it sounds like they spent like $20 million in marketing to try to like figure something out.
Well, the guy
and
was
it just
meditating on top of
horrible.
a mountain, and he's like, Gymkhana.
Well, that's the thing. I think in the UK, the phrase or the word Gymkhana is actually equestrian exhibitions,
really?
horse jumping and stuff like that. It's called Gymkhana.
It just sounds bad. I
It
don't
does.
know.
I mean, this is where Brooks was sent to the UK a couple of months ago. Yeah,
And somehow he found his way back.
Yeah, I mean, a lot
I
of
don't know how that
the
happened.
yeah, there's a lot of the Gymkhana stuff in the Battersea complex. But yeah, you're basically, you're trying to get a high score, so you're doing donuts and spins and stuff. And they have a tutorial, but the tutorial, it just kind of tells you, oh, go spin in here. And it's very hard to like figure out what you're doing wrong, because you try to get into the zone that it wants to spin, and you just spin out of it. And the more time I spent with it, because they do have Gymkhana sections in just about every tier, I've gotten a lot better with it, and it tends to be later on it becomes more about multipliers, chaining stuff together without bumping the walls and that kind of thing.
Had you gotten above a bronze yet, or?
Oh yeah, I've actually gotten I think I've gotten some gold on some Gymkhana
Well, cracking
things.
that first bronze was kind of a.
But they even that is mixed up. Like they have some where it's just go and score as many points as you can, and then they have others where you have to like this set
You run a course.
a set course of stunts to do in like a minute.
So let's go back to the rallies thing. They use, and I'm just curious now, they use real world rally locations. They have like the RAC rally in the, where you're all over the UK.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not familiar with real world rally enough to know. Okay. And the locations they have there's like Finland, Norway, Aspen, Kenya. So it's different than like the last one. I know they had some stuff out like in the American desert, and they had stuff in Malaysia. The menus this time they've moved away from the whole trailer thing that was in Dirt 2 and F1, and now they're just obsessed with triangles. There's just triangles and Triforce all over the place, so it's pretty funny there. But the rally racing is incredible. One of my favorite ones so far has been you're racing buggies through the snow at night, and I always race in cockpit view. So the buggy, you have like this this wire mesh in front of you, and then you have all the snow kicking up in your face, and you just can't see anything. It's just
You really do play hardcore when you play these things, don't you?
yeah. I mean,
no one
it's amazing.
ever questioned your driving hardcoreness.
No, I walked by. I'm like, why don't you go to third person? And you just glared at me.
I can't even do third person on these kind of games. It's just
Thank God there's a replay mode.
I'm turning
right?
too late. Yeah, they tweaked that too. The flashback system kind of changes every time. So now they give you 5 flashbacks for every race. Before it was dependent on your difficulty setting. But now the incentive to not use them is your rep, your experience that allows you to get to higher tier cars. So if you use more flashbacks, then you don't get as much experience at the end of the race.
All right, so 2 questions for you to wrap up. How does it stack up against the previous entries in the Dirt franchise?
It stacks up really well. It's very solid. Like I think it's one of the for racing games, it's one of the least buggy games I've seen. There's only a few little anomalies that I've seen very rarely.
And for you, that's saying something.
Yeah, I mean, I run into crazy glitches all the time. The other thing, though, I would say is it's a great compliment. It's like I was saying, they're not trying to like redo and this replaces Dirt 2. You can play this and enjoy this and still go back to Dirt 2 for the things it has that are unique about it.
Okay, so how does this stack up against other driving games that you've played? There's obviously been a few that have come out over the last like 6 to 8 months that
Yeah, it's definitely one of the best ones this year so far. I would put it above Shift 2 for sure.
Cool. So it's a buy if you're a driving fan.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna keep this short. I'm already late for the DA. Got a patrolman on site. The coroner's on his way. Get over there, see what you can find out.
Okay, next up, the big release of the week and another contender for Game of the Year.
Witcher 2.
That's right. No, we'll talk about Well, no, we've already covered Witcher 2 in the intro. Yeah. So I'm talking, of course, about L.A. Noire. And I am in excellent company here where I have three people in front of me who know a lot about the game, unlike me, because my copy got delayed when Amazon's airplane got stuck in New Mexico. So, I haven't had a chance to get into it yet.
Whoa, there's a New Mexico?
Apparently, yeah, it replaced the old Mexico. It's like New Coke, old Coke. All right, so you guys have played it. Brandon, you've put a lot of time into it, apparently.
Yeah, I'm totally biased, not only because I love Rockstar and I love open world games and I love Rockstar open world games, but I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and so it's kind of fun to kind of forget where I'm going.
And your dad's a police detective, right?
Yeah, I wish. That'd be fantastic.
Well, I mean, that's a really cool thing. I mean, obviously, we are in Los Angeles. I mean, I've been living here for almost 10 years, and as a big fan of the old Elmore Leonard books and LA Confidential and the Black Dahlia, this is so far up my street. I'm just not, I'm so looking forward to getting to play it tonight. But yeah, how does it, represent LA? I mean, this is LA of the 20s or the 30s or the 40s. But I mean, how
47
does it still feel? Does it feel accurate?
It's all downtown from what I've seen so far for the most part.
Yeah, just
but
downtown, some what they call Central and Hollywood. But I don't know if the map expands.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That,
we should make a quick note that Shane did the review.
Yeah.
So and he's out at Judges Week this week. Just want to throw that out there. Yeah, I think it looks like a good Los Angeles.
No, I'm just curious because again, I mean,
I'm not a big
that's
fan
one of the
of
great things
LA,
about these sort of games where you're playing certain games and if you recognize landmarks.
Well, my question is, how open world is it? I know you've been doing some of the side missions. I've been totally skipping those, and I've also been making my partner drive me everywhere, so I don't
that's
ding
the great
anything.
Thing about it is you kind of get the best of both worlds. Like if you don't want to deal with open world, if you do have a little bit of stress because you can't run over pedestrians, which is easier said than done because there are some missions where you're driving. Chasing people that are driving very fast, and it is kind of easy to have some pedestrian walk across the street and not see them until the last minute. But if you want to just skip and not drive anywhere and skip all the action sequences, you can. So if you just want to play this as an adventure game, and I don't care if it's in LA, I don't need to see landmarks.
It totally is an adventure game if you want it to be. It's I like boiling things down to what they remind me of, and it's a little bit of Heavy Rain and a little bit of Phoenix Wright. You challenge someone on a lie, you show them the evidence. I'd also say the game is pretty unique for what it does, but it's also kind of one of those things you got to love, kind of warts and all. Like I mean. Mild spoilers here. Like I was talking to someone in one of the earlier cases, and she was like, "Oh, and my husband had just gotten new glasses, and I'd found glasses at the crime scene, and they said they had been repaired multiple times." So I'm like, "You're lying." And then she's like, "What, do you think I murdered him?" And I'm like, "No, I thought you were lying about the glasses." So you gotta kind of go into the nuances of it. I also feel like the conversations are kind of like navigating a maze where there's kind of like the branching paths of a conversation are kind of like mazes from like old text adventures or something, where there's kind of like an internal logic that you're trying to crack to try to figure it out. And as I think you play the game more, you'll be maybe better at it. And yeah, there is the look at the human faces for the shifty eyes and stuff like that. But it's kind of a maze, and it's not always fair, and you'll hit some dead ends. But like Heavy Rain, you can't really fail. Like you always kind of go on. If you do outright fail something, they just have you redo it. The game's very forgiving.
I thought one case actually replayed a second time, and the bad version was actually much funnier. That was really interesting. Where I'll try to keep this as unspoilery as possible. Where like I basically through dumb luck, when I did it the wrong way, found out that this guy was up to no good. Whereas if you actually are very astute and ask him the right questions, you can on the spot nail him before he even leaves like the restaurant or the bar, the place where he's at. But it was kind of funny to catch him red-handed. Like it was a funny situation, and I thought it'd be interesting if you play the game the right way, you completely miss that whole scene, all that motion capture, all that facial animation, all that.
Well, even if I got a 5-star rating on, I replayed a mission too because I wanted to see how different it played out. And when you beat a mission, it gives you a hint on like some stuff you missed. Even when I got the 5-star rating, it was like, well, you could have also done this. Yeah. So there is a ton of variety to it, and its episodic nature is also interesting. I don't know if any iPhone people out there have been playing Swords and Sorcery, where it actually kicks you out once you beat an episode. You can go right back in. But I felt like L.A. Noire kind of like, you can kind of sit through and go through a bunch of it, but I also feel like when you're done with a case, it's kind of easy to walk away from it and pick it up the next day. And since there really isn't any multiplayer component, it is kind of a way to like, stretch the game out a little bit more. You don't have to completely feast on it every day.
You can go back to cases 2 just really easily, right?
Yeah, so from the main menu.
Progress and the cases aren't the same thing. So if you find a car or if you get some street crime or something like that while you're in the middle of a case and you want to restart the case, it'll restart the case but save your progress. So like all that it's restarting is just the case that you're on right now, whereas everything else will be saved.
So here's my question. With the game, can you play as, if you want to be a dick? If you want to be the hard-ass, aggressive policeman, I mean, it doesn't give you those options. Cause this has always been sort of like one of my bonus of contention with Rockstar, and I love them a bit. But Red Dead Redemption last year, you would go off and you'd start, shooting up the place, and you'd end up either going to jail or paying off the bounty hunters.
No,
or whatever.
there's no morality here.
Well, that was always my problem with Red Dead. Once you paid off the bounty hunters, you had a clean slate pretty much. It had no impact on the storyline. So is this along the similar lines that if you get get it wrong or you're too aggressive with somebody, it doesn't really.
They don't really let you be a bad cop. It's not, not
I mean, I would say though, I don't know, Jones, if you'd agree with me. The you can believe someone, you can say they're lying, or you can doubt them.
Right.
Doubting seems more like bluffing.
Doubting is lying without evidence. Doubting is, I know you're lying, but I have nothing to back it up with.
But like you as the cop, though, I don't know. It's kind of like I said. It takes a little while to get used to the nuances of what they're kind of defining everything as.
Yeah, there's much less of a morality play in this than in Red Dead, because in Red Dead they charted it, whereas in you knew if you were being a bad guy or not. Whereas in this, it's the story or not.
So you
and
can't
you
grab
don't,
a.
You don't operate outside the story in this game, really. You don't go out and I guess I'll shoot some dudes in a bar or something because I feel like it's not possible.
So it's way more linear, perhaps, than the than previous Rockstar games.
True, but the bonus is there's way more characters.
I'm not saying that's necessarily a negative thing.
And if you're a fan of Mad Men, they had the same casting director, so they have a bunch of dudes from. I mean, the main character obviously, but I've noticed some other dudes as well.
The game should be called "Hey, It's That Guy."
Yeah,
Every time
the guy from Fringe is in there. The
Utz
Utz Chips comedian from Mad Men. Good stuff.
So, I mean, obviously, we record on a Wednesday, so there's been limited time because obviously Shane was off hogging the GT copy last week. But, I mean, all the reviews that have been coming through have been absolutely stellar. And, this is a huge thumbs up, I'm guessing, from everybody, yeah? Yeah,
warts and all. I mean, there's not, like, it's very original in a lot of ways, even though if you kind of looked at the composite parts. But, I was laughing at it when I was picking up beer cans and rotating them. I think... that those guys, Shenmue and Heavy Rain, could have some sort of contest of like analog rotating of objects, but it's pretty decent. It's at least worth checking out.
I mean, this is a departure for Rockstar, and given what they've done in the past, I mean, departure from their regular playing style. And do you think the hardcore fanboys who are perhaps expecting GTA LA 1940s? You think they're going to be disappointed?
Sure. Yeah, I think if you go in, wanting to raise hell, it's just you can't do it. You definitely have to be the good guy. But I think that's kind of refreshing, just as it was refreshing to ride a horse instead of a car. I think they keep it familiar. The controls feel familiar. The cover system, all of that, like the gameplay is familiar, but kind of your intent has changed. And I get a kick out of that. I like that there's a big emphasis on cars. I like that there can be teenagers out there, being stoked when they find some cool vintage, 1945 car. And that's neat. I like that Rockstar can put an emphasis on this, and because of shows like Mad Men, there's this resurgence of interest in that time period, and you can make a game like that interesting, even to an era of gamers right now who are just all about action, all about being the bad guy, taking a shotgun and killing innocent people.
All right.
Jesus. Nope. Cole, come take a look at this.
Oh.
Let the bloodbath begin!
Our last segment of the show, and we are talking to the most excitable man in games, Justin, you've been playing Shadows of the Damned.
I don't think that's accurate. I don't know why you would introduce me like that.
I think I'm being ironic and sarcastic because you are one of the most laid-back people I've ever met, which is an enviable quality. Because I get quite
well-dressed man in games.
You are quite dapper and fashionable.
I don't know. I don't go to the daily effort in the office, but I could.
You scrub
anyway,
you scrub it well. Shadows of the Damned.
Yeah.
I know you went to the preview event, didn't you, a couple of weeks ago as well?
Did.
And then when you talked about it on the show, it was like kind of.
Yeah, and Shane was like kind of shitting on it from GDC as well, but we got it in the office.
So we've got it in the office. So give us the skinny and the scoop, as they say.
Well, when I was at the event, I just played it for about maybe 15-20 minutes. Didn't have sound. They had God mode on basically, and it's kind of a limited section of the game.
Wasn't the most ideal situation for anybody to...
I mean, it's okay, but I think they mostly just wanted people to, get through it and see some screwed up stuff, shoot some dudes, and which I did that with the preview version. And, I didn't mean to sound quite so down on the game from the beginning. And I mean, the game, it's still pretty interesting. There's weird stuff. Your checkpoints is basically a little demon, takes a flaming shit and it marks your checkpoint. You're like, oh, I've been there. This little guy has shat here, and now I know.
Let's take a step back for perhaps those people who aren't really, it's one of those games that have been floating just below the radar, I think, for a lot of people. And there's probably a lot of people on the comments boards calling me, an idiot right now. But just give us the overall premise of the game, the setup of the game. What's it about?
Well, the dude attached to the game is Suda51, and Goichi Suda. He did No More Heroes. Right. He's a crazy guy. He's got some crazy ideas. They have kind of a punk rock, mentality to making games and getting stuff out there. But the premise for this one is you're a guy named Garcia Hotspur, which is not the best name. I probably would have.
Sounds like a porn star.
I would have suggested some alternates. Yeah, but he has a Spanish accent is as ridiculous as his name, and he's gone to hell to retrieve his girlfriend who has been murdered by demons. And actually, as you go through, she's repeatedly being reincarnated and then murdered in gruesome ways. And he's like, I'd like to do something. I gotta kill some more demons. He's like, I'm sorry, you're bleeding to death and being ripped apart from the inside by
so basically every level she gets really
she's just constantly being tortured as you're going through. But I mean, gameplay wise, this is the reason I said the game's not quite crazy enough for me, in that it's a very this is a Resident Evil 4 inspired action game. It has the view pretty much the same. You can move around while you're shooting. You move kind of slowly. It really is a game that's like you run, you put some distance, you flip around with a quick turn, then you aim and you shoot guys that are coming at you, making adjustments. So, and the style of gameplay, there's a lot of lock and key stuff. The doors are really freaky doors. They have little baby faces on them and like and they're like, I want brains or I want strawberries. So you basically have to find that in the level.
And you say this isn't crazy enough for you?
It's from a gameplay. Actually, from a gameplay perspective, it's just really kind of straightforward. Lock and key. They have a light and darkness thing, which goes into combat and the puzzles. But the world, the hell, that you're in is really interesting, and they have weird characters and there's lots of personality. But it is totally just set up like a video game level. There's like you walk into a tavern, but it's basically there because there's a vending machine in it, and you go outside. There's a locked door, or you go to a place and there's an enemy in a cage, and when you free it, it crawls up and does something that allows you to shoot. It creates darkness.
Yeah,
so
everything is there for
hell looks a little haphazardly slapped together.
It's plotted out, but I mean, it's not bad gameplay. It's still fun, and playing this preview version we had, there was no point where I'm like, I'm done with this. I kind of, I wanted to go forward, see more stuff. They've got some crazy stuff. You can, I always like to upgrade weapons, so I didn't spend any gems at all on my health or whatever, because I'm not good, so I can just buy the red stones to upgrade. So it has some cool mechanics to it.
What's the thing where you kind of like if an enemy's behind you, you can like melee them?
Oh yeah,
I like that.
It's basically kind of a quick timey mechanic that keeps dudes from sneaking up on you, because in a game, the Resident Evil style games where you're really just focused on what's in front of you. You don't have a lot of situational awareness. So if you're about to get sucker punched from behind, you'll see a button icon, you'll hit it, you'll give the guy an elbow, and then you'll turn around and be able to kind of deal with him. So, it's
Nice small step.
reasonably. Yeah, I mean, it's nothing shocking for the combat. It feels pretty fun.
So, fans of No More Heroes, I mean, are they going to dig this, or is this, not as wacky as they're going to expect? Or, I mean, it's a different environment.
I mean, I think it has it has a grasshopper manufacturer vibe to it. I think there'll be stuff there to appreciate. There's kind of a really, I can't talk about that part yet. But there's some weird stuff that's not just standard, adventure, go through, shoot guys, upgrade stuff. There's some weird stuff, and the game definitely has a lot of personality. They do ride it's kind of phallocentric humor, I guess. They have a lot of dick jokes. Your assistant demon, who is like your torch, and he transforms your gun, is like Johnson, but that's not it. He's like,
Can you
when you're
talk about-
upgrading him with blue gems, he's like, go ahead, I'm ready for insertion. He's like, just jab it in my face. Doesn't mean we're engaged or anything. And there's a weapon called the boner, which
Yeah.
upgrades into the
What's your
hot boner,
capacity?
and
What's
then
your
I think the
capacity
third
on your
upgrade,
boner?
It's a big boner.
What's the capacity of
You
your
can
boner?
actually improve your boner's capacity as well as its power and reload speed. Although
Reload speed
speed's
could
kind
be
of-
handy.
It's true, but it's kind of a dumb thing to upgrade. Like, just upgrade your capacity. Then
I mean, yeah, it just shows the maturity level that everybody sitting around this table right now is smirking. That's all it takes is a couple of good dick jokes to get us going.
So with Splatterhouse and Dante's Inferno, is this demon captures your girlfriend and like continually sexually assaults her while you have to bathe yourself in blood? Is that like a new genre now? That
Yes.
well, it happens a lot.
I think that's been a genre in Japan for probably the last 20 years.
What we need
isn't
to
it?
bring back is ninjas kidnapping the president's daughter.
There you go.
That was good.
Only if you can play Sinbad, who has been tasked to rescue her.
Or Kurt Russell.
The guy from...
Yeah, Sinbad. Have you
Comedian.
not seen the
Comedian?
movie First Kid? It's really bad.
Okay.
Is he a bad enough dude to?
His jokes, huh?
Huh?
¿Qué diablos es eso? That was just the appetizer, Hotspur. A taste of what's in store.
All right, that wraps it up for this week. Couple of things. First of all, the Avatar Idol from last week. Yeah, thanks for all your comments about how the teeth were perfect for a Brit. I don't know if there is a new Avatar this week. I am being kept in the dark. There might be, there might not be. You'll be seeing it right now. Next up, obviously E3 is a couple of weeks away, and we have made an announcement here at GT about the 20-odd hours of live television that's going on via Spike TV, and I think there's a lot of it.
It's all streaming. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a little less on the TV, but still tons on TV. Lots of press conferences and good post-show stuff and live demos.
And it'll be streaming through GT.com.
Yeah.
So yeah, E3 is a couple of weeks away. We're all stoked. Shane will be back next week, and we will go more in depth on The Witcher. And in 2 weeks, we have a very, very special guest who has never been on the show before. All right, until then, this is the Invisible Walls crew saying thank you very much, and have a good weekend.